This video is sponsored by War Thunder, and it's also going to contain full game spoilers for Starfield. You ready for all that? Alright, let's go. When I first told people that I was going to be playing Starfield for the first time a few weeks ago, I was met with the sort of response you tend to get when you tell people that you're committing to what is obviously a bad idea and everybody knows it but you. You see, Starfield has a bit of a reputation, but I've never really been tight on the discourse around games. I mean, I know enough to have a basic conversation. I can sit with you and chat about how crazy it is that Starfield is, checks notes, bad, but I didn't actually have an opinion on Starfield. I mean, how could I? I'd never played the game. The purpose of playing Starfield was to cash in on an idea that I'd had for a little while, an idea I might still cash in on eventually, so I won't say too much, other than the fact that the first draft of that script was over an hour long before it was even finished, because I walked away from my first playthrough with so many different thoughts on so many different elements of the game, but one thing that was clear and consistent were my thoughts on the story. I had been told, in so many ways, that Starfield's story was awful, and after experiencing it, I've walked away from the game confused? Baffled, and at the same time, not surprised at all that Bethesda's core audience completely missed the point. There are a lot of things about this game that are scuffed and jank, but the story is not one of them, so sit down and strap in because I'm Thane Bishop, and you were wrong about Starfield. But first, I gotta get this bag. War Thunder recently reached out to sponsor a video, and in the time since, I've played 78 rounds, so I hope you believe me when I say that I think this game is pretty fun. Here's the deal. War Thunder is the comprehensive vehicle combat game with 2,500 vehicles from 10 different factions spanning the last century of warfare from ocean to air, and it's all available for free across PC, console, and mobile. When I say comprehensive, I mean comprehensive. I'm talking individual components of vehicles, including crews, all accounted for individually when damage happens, and I'm talking a crazy amount of customization so that your vehicle always feels like your vehicle. Personally, I've been using War Thunder as a nice little break from work during the day, with each round being just the right amount of time to unwind a little without totally losing focus on what I've been doing, and I've been having a blast with the tanks. Everything here is super detailed, graphics look great, sound design is on point, I love the sensation of piloting these vehicles, and I'm clearly not alone because War Thunder has a community of over 95 million players. If you want to jump in for yourself, you can play free on PC, console, or mobile by using the links in the description or the pinned comment. If you're new or returning after 6 months and on PC or console, then you'll get a whole goodie bag as thanks, with access to premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium time. It's a limited offer, so jump to it. One of the fun things about Bethesda branching out from their two main cash cows is that, so far at least, you can still place titles into either Elder Scrolls or Fallout just by the way the game opens. Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, all start as a prisoner. That's an Elder Scrolls classic. Fallout 3, 4, and 76, underground, that's the standard. Fallout New Vegas? Okay, well yeah, that's not underground, but that's not a Bethesda game, that was made by Obsidian. Fall of Avalon? Okay, well that's underground and in prison, but that's questline, not Bethesda, though I totally understand the confusion. In Starfield, you're underground, making this a spiritual Fallout game, a point of note made entirely for the purpose of novelty. You're here underground for your first day of work with the Argos Corporation, a mining group that's set up shop here because a mystery client has hired the group to locate a very ominous-sounding something buried deep in the bedrock. They won't say what it is exactly, only that you'll know when you find it because of what it does to gravity. Neat. Anyways, today's the day. The goober has been located, and you're on deck to retrieve it. Now, if you think that it's a little weird that you, on your first day, have been chosen for this distinct honor, you're in the same boat I was in until I thought about it a single second longer and realized that if I had to choose someone to go yank the weird thing clearly defying physics out of the bedrock, I too would choose the most disposable member of my team, especially after learning that the main effect of touching the goober is that it instantly gives you total perspective on the universe and your place in it, but only for like 2 seconds. You're gonna be fine. But also, come on, get up. You need to recover from this little journey quickly because the client is coming in right now, and if you hand the goober over with your pupils looking like dinner plates, they might not be terribly impressed. What proceeds happens at near blinding speed, so I'm just going to give it to you quick. The buyer shows up. His name is Barrett. He works for a group called Constellation, whose whole big thing is pushing the bounds of human understanding of space. Right now, they're on a crusade to collect as many of these things you've pulled up, called artifacts, as possible, because they probably mean something. As an important point of note, Barrett has touched one too, which means he's actually deeply impressed by your trip and asks to swap notes. He'll demand that you come with him, stating that you are part of something bigger now, but your boss, Lynn, is like, no, he needs to break rocks, Dumbo. And Barrett says, you, Dumbo, I'll break the rocks. Here, kid, catch. And he throws you the keys to his starship so that you can go to Constellation while he stays behind. Off you go now. Constellation is an interesting group with an interesting premise. Mankind settled the stars, yes, but we've plateaued in that regard. We found places like home and then stayed there. On a cosmological scale, we've basically done the equivalent of moving out of our parents' house and then into the house right next door. It's almost like mankind as a species was neither interested in or willing to go out into space. It's almost like they were forced and just found the closest acceptable thing to home. What an interesting thought. When it comes to Constellation, however, they have a bigger picture view, you might say. A view largely focused on the artifacts, one of which you're here to deliver. Now at this point, we don't really know what these artifacts are, what they do, what their purpose is, but that's so much of the fun. Being faced with a great unknown and a thing to pursue, and this, of course, is the main plot of the game. Finding these artifacts, putting together the mystery, and seeing where it leads you. And where it leads you is largely all over the place, both in literal space and also in quality. Throughout the course of the main story, you'll collect more than a few artifacts, and what I noticed is that a non-insignificant number of these artifacts were just like at the end of a cave. There was a hole in the ground with some bad guys in the hole, and if I killed all the bad guys, I could take the artifact. And is that like engaging storytelling? Kind of, I guess? But these incidents quickly pale in comparison to instances where the story doesn't just hand you a new goober, it also desperately tries to tell you something. In orbit around Jemison, the planet where Constellation has set up shop, is a station called the Eye, and the group uses it to hunt for artifacts by searching for the very specific gravitational waves that the artifacts generate. And we're here in the Freya system to follow up on readings indicating that there's an artifact somewhere planetside on Freya 3. Entering orbit, however, instantly jumped me into a distress call. Something had gone wrong at the Nishina research station, and while I'd received and ignored and also answered distress calls before, they had never come from my primary objective before. I landed on Freya 3 expecting disaster, I suppose, a gunfight with terrorists who'd come to seize the lab's research to be used in weaponry, or maybe an impact from a meteor had started a chain reaction, but when I landed, everything was fine. Totally fine. So fine, of course, that when I got to the lab, the head of security, Ethan, assured me that there hadn't been a distress call. Only once I said I was there for the artifact was I allowed inside, but they insisted that my companion stay behind. Okay, I see what's happening here. The first thing that happens when I walk in is a code yellow, whatever that means, being announced, with all sections going into lockdown. That's why you won't see any civilians wandering the station. No reason to be concerned. I am firmly directed not to wander and to follow closely, and at this point my mind is racing. I'm here for the artifact, stay focused. Ethan says that this is all normal protocol, that they're a small station in the middle of nowhere, and that pirates would eat this place alive, his own words. So on the nose, you can almost see the smirk on his face. As we walk, I'm already running theoreticals. The artifact is the main priority, but if these pirates have left anyone alive, I'll do my best to save whoever I can. What I recognize now that I missed in my, dare I say, perfectly justified paranoia, was this board upon entering the facility, listing off all of the heads of staff, including, right here at the bottom, one Ethan Hughes. Sure, raiders could have changed this board around, or stolen identities on the off chance that a particularly nosy player character might stumble upon them in the midst of some nefarious ne'er-do-welling, but as I waited for the reveal for the gunfire to start, I was taken by the actual reveal. The reveal, the obvious bait and switch. I almost don't want to show you this because it ruins the surprise on what is maybe the most engaging single area of the game's main story, but I cannot leave this stone unturned. I love this. This is just like Stilton's Manor from Dishonored 2. Isn't that wild? Isn't that totally crazy? How one of my favorite levels from a series about the dangers of singular people or groups pursuing uncheckable power at all cost is here in Starfield? I'm sure that won't be a repeating element and a core theme at all. Excuse me. Sorry. Let's get back on track. Now, the artifact on this planet is deep within the lab, far underground, being used in a test of some kind. A test that a few weeks ago went wrong, deeply wrong. So wrong, in fact, that due to the artifact's presence, a split in reality was made, and now these two versions of the research facility exist as a sort of superposition. A burnt-out wreck with a single survivor, an engineer named Raphael, who's been trapped here alone for weeks, and a standard protocol station where the head of engineering, Raphael, was tragically lost during an accident a few weeks ago. You'll need to jump between different versions of the same lab to solve puzzles and recover the artifact, with the catch that taking the artifact from the test room will collapse the superposition, turning whichever reality you happen to be in at the moment of claiming the artifact into the reality, meaning the other version of the lab will just cease to exist? Go away forever? It's hard to say, but I sure wouldn't want to be in that version of the lab. Which, of course, makes this a little bit of a trolley problem, doesn't it? So who do you lose? One person or the entire station? One life or dozens? This is not just a remarkable location with a cool twist. This is essentially a question of whether you think one human life is more valuable than others. And if that one life gets to essentially dictate the fate of many others more. Hold on to that idea for me. In the universe of Starfield, Earth isn't doing so great. There was a bit of a disaster-tastrophe a century and some change ago, and now that lovely, breathable atmosphere is all gone. This event is what forced mankind to the stars, a slow but steady loss of atmosphere and a grand exodus of all mankind to find a new home among our common birthright. Wouldn't you look at that? We were right from the beginning. If only it were so simple. You see, we're here at this old NASA facility, yes, actually NASA, keep up, because scans indicate an artifact has been left here, and as we dig through this facility, we slowly learn that the original prototype of the now ubiquitous grav drive found on every spacefaring ship in the galaxy used this weird artifact as a power source. The man who made it all work was Dr. Victor Isa, and he learned how to do all of this when he first stumbled upon the artifact, touching it, and experiencing a trip much like ours from the beginning of the game, wherein he was visited by a version of himself from the next universe over, who told him how to make the early grav drive, and how it would send mankind to the stars, and also how testing this unrefined prototype would alter Earth's magnetic field to such a degree that it would kill the planet, because that's how it all happened in the Variance universe. And upon learning all of this, Victor just went for it. He made the drive, he shared the science with the world, but he kept the knowledge of the danger a secret. He took mankind to the stars, and he killed our home. One life dictating the fate of many others more. So maybe hold on to Dr. Victor and Old Earth too. Now, by this point, you're probably beginning to notice a pattern, that these artifacts seem connected to the idea of a multiverse. Let's talk about that. It is revealed throughout this story that these artifacts have a few different qualities. If you're the first person to touch one, you're given the ability to receive certain powers from ancient temples scattered across the galaxy. Very cool, I think, in general. But if you know anything about the way that I play Skyrim, you'll know that I tend to forget that these shouts even exist. So this lure and invitation for power was largely lost on me. More important, however, is what happens when all the artifacts are collected in the same place. With all artifacts assembled, a person is able to enter the Unity, the place where, to keep it simple, all universes merge. Entering the Unity allows you to be reborn into a new universe while retaining all knowledge and power gained in your previous universe, or in some cases, universes. The people who enter the Unity in this way are known as Starborn, and while they enter the story as something of an enigma, the truth of their existence is rather simple. They are just people, like you and me, who happen to, in their own universe, have collected all the artifacts, and therefore been able to enter the Unity. Like Constellation, they seek the artifacts in any given universe. However, they seek them for the ability to collect more power from the temples and then jump to a new universe, thereby repeating this cycle. And the most dangerous of these Starborn is the Hunter.
Hello, Constellation.
Who are you?
They call me the Hunter. And now that I'm here, your part in glimpsing the Unity is over.
Everything changed for me when Constellation was attacked and Sarah was killed. You see, Constellation was not a group of starry-eyed children wandering into the vast unknown with hope and naivety in our hearts as we explored what the common birthright of all mankind held for us. Every member who did fieldwork was a gunslinger through and through, with no qualms about getting their hands dirty. I mean, for God's sake, the first thing we learn about Constellation is that they don't mind shooting their way out of a problem when Barrett lands to retrieve the first artifact with pirates in tow, and later on, when finding Andreja, it's clear that Constellation doesn't mind shooting their way into a problem. But this was different. The moment the Hunter attacked the Eye and came for the Lodge. Fieldwork was dirty, yeah, but the dirty had never followed us home, never found us at our home, never come for us before, never made us choose like this. I was made to make the call, try and get to the Eye fast enough to save Sarah's life, or stay at the Lodge, defend the people here, and keep safe the collective work of the whole of Constellation, one human life or many more, and all the efforts thereof. What's more important? There's more to consider now. We are not the only ones looking for these artifacts, and we are not the most dangerous people looking for the artifacts. That is a bad place to be. Thankfully, we weren't quite alone. Introducing the Emissary. She, like the Hunter, is Starborn, someone who has traveled across universes much like the Hunter, but with a contrasting set of ideals, though no less dangerous on a first meeting. Which, of course, we need to understand the context between these two. The Hunter believes that power exists to be claimed, and that those with the ability to claim power are justified in both whatever actions are taken to claim it, and also in whatever actions they happen to do having taken that power. The Hunter has spent untold millennia jumping from universe to universe, collecting the artifacts, retrieving power from the temples, and then jumping to the next, killing anyone who opposes him, or even slightly inconveniences him on his quest. In this regard, he has lost total perspective on things like the value of human life. He has claimed uncheckable power for himself, and uses it for the express purpose of claiming yet still further power. The Hunter did not kill Sarah Morgan because he hated her. The Hunter killed Sarah because he has come to the point where he fails to recognize the human life as a thing with inherent value, because in his time he has seen an uncountable number of Sarah Morgans, killed an uncountable number of Sarah Morgans, and meets another every time he jumps to a new universe. It is no surprise that the average human life is an afterthought to him, what with how many people he kills during his attack on New Atlantis. One life dictating the fates of countless more. He is the essence of what it means to pursue uncheckable power at all cost. He is what the story has been leading to. It is not hate that drives the Hunter. It is greed and apathy. And honestly, that might be worse. It's not a surprise to me, then, that I consider the Emissary's perspective to hold more value, what with her opinion that the common man cannot be trusted with the power of the artifacts. And when you consider that all Starborn are simply humans who have reached the Unity, the Hunter's very existence supports this reservation. He used to be just like you and me. The Hunter was willing to kill you and anyone else in his way because the concept of your life having value is an inconceivable thing to him on his journey to amass as much power as possible. The Emissary was willing to kill you because her main objective is to prevent people from gathering and poorly using the artifacts and their powers, and she is not willing, at least at first, to just roll the dice on whether or not you will just become another hunter once you have gained power. In Nashina, with Raphael and the research station, the game invites you to consider the value of one human life weighed against dozens more. Yes, it is sad what happened to Raphael, and it is unfair to him that he should survive so long alone only to be snuffed out, but him meeting a terrible fate does not invalidate the dozens of lives that would be lost should you choose to forsake them in favor of one person. In this instance, his own interests do not get to invalidate the lives of others. In this sense, the game gently eases in the question, should one human life so easily hold sway over the lives and deaths of others? At Old Earth with Dr. Victor Isa, the game shows the horror of letting one human life dictate what existence looks like for 8 billion more. This is, essentially, the same idea put forward in Nashina, but with heightened stakes, like the game is building up towards a grand recognition. No matter what good came from Isa's actions, this was not a choice that people were given. This was not a question asked of you and I what we desired our lives to be. This was one single person forcing an entire planet to succumb to their will. And here with the Hunter, the story shows what the reckless pursuit of uncheckable power, the disregard for the lives of the people around us, and the willingness to kill to achieve interests that only align with and benefit you does to a person. The story of Starfield is that the greatest threat to me, to you, to our species, and even our home is, always has been, and always will be, allowing the pursuit of power at all cost, with no regard for human life, and allowing those that seek that kind of power to go unpunished. This core ethos is why I think so many of Bethesda's normal audience failed to connect with the story. My experience with Bethesda games has always involved being given incredible power with absolutely no regard for how it is used. These games have always been about your own will reigning supreme. That's just how they function. It's such a native experience that when it's not present, people will force it anyways. In the Dawnguard DLC for Skyrim, for example, the character Serana is introduced, a character that, despite being almost inarguably the best written character in the whole game, is not romanceable. This is not a development oversight, this is because of trauma that Serana has surrounding temples and the like as a result of her being forced to become a pure-blooded vampire against her will. And yet, the most popular mod on Nexus for Serana includes an authentic romance for a deep and genuine romantic journey, you know, with a character that canonically does not want to be romanced. But sure, whatever. Force your will on a character and then be shocked when the story of Starfield dares to tell you that maybe, perhaps, just a little bit, you'd be in the wrong for doing that to a person, much less a collective. Am I surprised that the value of a story deeply entrenched in the philosophical discussion surrounding incredible and uncheckable power and who gets to use and control that power is largely lost on the average Bethesda enthusiast? No, I'm not. Is this the greatest story ever written? No, it isn't. But I liked it. It left me interested in exploring the smaller stories of the game as well, and it left me thinking in the same way that some of my favorite stories have before. I think this is a total reversal of Bethesda's usual MO, and that's a big part of what made Starfield's story so difficult for so many people, or underwhelming for so many people. It is an intricate narrative that invites the player to contemplate the concept of power and whether people deserve to wield that power. And honestly, I think the fact that Starfield has more than a few rough edges has perhaps rubbed some people the wrong way. By the time the story becomes compelling enough to dial in on, I wouldn't be surprised if most people had checked out, which means that I am left with the remarkably rare sense that the story of Starfield deserved a better game than what was built around it, for whatever that is worth. I suppose, if nothing else, I want this to be an invitation. If you just fast-clicked through all the dialogue, if you got burnt out by the systems of the game not being what they should be, just think about this story and what it's saying just a little more. If it's your first time hearing this story, I do think it's better than I often see it given credit for. And if you still don't like it, that's fine, I can't change that, but I was caught off guard by what this story ended up meaning to me. And I hope it can mean something to you too. I want to give a final quick thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. I've been having a real blast with this game, and if you're new to the game or returning after 6 months, then you can jump in on PC, console, or mobile by following the links down below, with that sweet bonus for players both new and returning after 6 months on PC and console with the exclusive Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, access to some premium vehicles, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium time. Fun fact, since recording that last bit, I've gone and got myself sick, but I still need to say a quick thank you. So, thank you to Jordan, Ivan Thanosi, Daddy Biscuit 22, Device MD, T.Log, Ginger Crow, Comet Killer 99, and Jordy Gonzalez for their incredible support over on Patreon at the executive level. These 8, plus everyone who's ever made the jump to support the channel on Patreon, are a huge part of why I get to do what I love on this channel, and I could not be more grateful to them. If you want to support the channel, see your name in the credits, all that jazz, it'd mean the world to me if you'd consider making the leap and seeing if there's a tier that works for you. In the meantime, I'm gonna go to bed. Thank you, everybody.